Step 2, find your agent. Before we get in too deep about finding a real estate agent, let's address the question of whether or not you actually need a real estate agent. I mean, we have Zillow after all, right? We can all go out and find our own homes. We watch Selling Sunset. This process doesn't look too difficult. So, do you need an agent? The answer to that question is no. Short answer is no. So, let's talk for a second about what that would look like. To get through a real estate transaction as a buyer with no representation of your own, number one, of course, you'd have to find the house. Most homes are listed on the MLS. MLS is shortened term for what we call the multiple listing service. The multiple listing service is a database. It's established by cooperating real estate brokerages to input data about all of the homes that are for sale in any given area. So it's essentially like a Zillow website. In fact, most homes today are cross-referenced. So if a home appears on the MLS, most often it's also going to appear on Zillow. So what does that mean for you? Again, as an unrepresented buyer, you're out there searching for a home. 9 times out of 10, you're on Zillow, you're on realtor.com, maybe you're driving neighborhoods, speaking to friends to find out where these homes that are for sale are available. At that point, you need to actually go and view the home, right? So you're going to contact the listing agent. Now, keep in mind, this is what's really important. That listing agent, who is the person that inputted all of this information onto the MLS or Zillow, all of the places where the home is listed, is working for the seller. That is the crucial component here. That agent is representing the seller. So yes, they may give you information about the property. They might show you the property, but at no time are they an agent. So agency is a term that's defined by law, and it dictates the way that we treat our clients as real estate professionals. The listing agent is not your agent, so that agent is only by law allowed to give you certain bits of information about the home, and at no point has a vested interest in representing you, the buyer. Now that listing agent has shown you the property, you're interested, home of your dreams, you want to put an offer on that property. Well, how are you going to do that? The next step is to fill out the contract. That's what an offer is. Essentially, it is the real estate contract presented to the other side of the transaction to find out whether it meets their needs as well, whether they agree to the terms of that contract. Most of us who are not real estate agents would not have the first clue where to find that contract, which is dictated by Louisiana law. We have to use a certain purchase agreement here in Louisiana for all residential property sales, nor would we know how to fill out that contract, what terms to use in the negotiation process. Those are all items that are usually handled by your agent. In this situation, the listing agent is going to be the one filling out that contract, unless you decide to do it yourself, which again puts you in a position where you are vulnerable to the mistakes that a person could make who isn't used to dealing with this on a regular basis, or you allow the listing agent to do it. Now, most listing agents are very reputable, honest people. They're probably going to fill out that contract in a way that doesn't harm you. I think most of us in this profession would agree that 90% of us are doing our jobs in the most ethical, honest way possible. But there are those other 10% who maybe aren't, or an agent who, through no fault of his or her own, just makes a mistake that probably wouldn't be made by someone that was fully focused on you as the buyer. So that's the next step, the contract. Now, once that offer has been submitted to the seller, which again was most likely filled out by the seller's agent, and it's agreed upon and all sides agree that they want to move forward, at that point begins a negotiation. I'm not going to get too deep into this right now because we're going to cover this in much more detail in the next few steps of what your agent is going to do for you, assuming you choose to have your own buyer's agent. Just suffice it to say at this point that once again, the selling agent, the person who's looking out for that seller's best interest, is now representing you as well in that side of the negotiation. Or that would be a dual agency situation, or no one is representing you. You are representing yourself. So you are left to figure all of this out on your own and negotiate on your own behalf against someone who does this for a living and is a professional. All that to say, clearly, I believe you should have someone on your side representing you. Assuming that you agree with that, then let's move on to how do you find that right person? Let's talk for a second about the real estate profession as a whole. The profession is made up of multiple entities and several different roles that real estate professionals hold. So I thought we could go through a few of those definitions just so that you can become familiar. First, we have brokerages. A brokerage is a group of people working together under a specific broker. Brokerages are companies like Keller Williams and Coldwell Banker. Those are some of the bigger names in the brokerage industry, but there are several smaller brokers as well, different boutique brokerages that have a different flavor to them, some that are made up of only a couple of people and some that are massive. So that's what a brokerage is. A broker is a person who is licensed to do real estate transactions in his or her particular state. A broker is actually the person who you are hiring when you hire someone to represent you in a real estate transaction, although you may never meet that broker because oftentimes you're actually served by a licensed salesperson. And the licensed salesperson is the person who usually works directly with the clients. That's someone that you would typically call a real estate agent, or some people mistakenly will use that term interchangeably with realtor. We'll get to that in a second. But a licensed salesperson is a real estate agent in Louisiana who is required to work underneath a broker. So the broker supervises the transactions that the licensed salesperson overseas. And then we have real estate assistants. A real estate assistant is an unlicensed professional who helps the licensed salesperson with his or her duties. So a real estate assistant is limited in the tasks that he or she can perform due to licensing regulations, but are invaluable to the transaction, especially in situations where many people are working together as a real estate team. Those real estate assistants perform multiple tasks. And then we have transaction coordinators. Transaction coordinators, also unlicensed professionals, work the transaction completely from beginning to end. A transaction coordinator does not handle any negotiations. That person does not show homes. They simply handle the transaction. They handle the emails back and forth between all the parties, deal with the documents, make sure that deadlines are met. They are people who, again, keep everything moving from one end to the next, a role that is typically performed by the salesperson or the real estate agent if that person does not have a transaction coordinator. Sometimes real estate professionals get very busy and they hire transaction coordinators to do the tasks that they can perform, freeing up the real estate agent to handle the negotiations, the showings, all of the tasks that the transaction coordinator is not licensed to do. So that's just a little brief cap of the different professionals and their roles. And let's talk for a second about realtors. Realtor or real estate agent. A real estate agent is someone who is licensed to practice real estate in the state of Louisiana. The Real Estate Licensing Board in Louisiana is called the LREC, Louisiana Real Estate Commission. The Real Estate Commission is the entity that licenses individuals to practice real estate. Reading directly from their website, The mission of the LREC is to serve and protect the public interest in real estate transactions and other real estate related activities. They accomplish this by maintaining a tradition of open government, providing fair and equitable administration and enforcement of the Louisiana real estate license law and commission rules and regulations, and through the development of progressive education programs that promote knowledge, ethics, and advancement of the real estate industry. So you can think of the LREC as the governing body in Louisiana for real estate professionals. And then we have the NAR, abbreviation for National Association of Realtors. And the NAR Association is all about ethics. A real estate agent does not have to become a realtor. A realtor is a person who's a member of the National Association of Realtors. It is a trademarked title. So a real estate agent who is not a member of NAR may not use the term realtor. What it means to have a realtor is to have someone who has committed him or herself to a higher level of professionalism within the industry. We commit ourselves to following the ethical guidelines of NAR, which govern all of the transactions that are handled by its members. In short, you'd be wise to hire a real estate agent who also carries the designation of realtor. That's a person who has committed him or herself to a much higher level of professionalism than someone who's not a part of the National Association of Realtors. Seven duties of your real estate agent. This one deserves a video all on its own, so I'm going to sign off and be right back with the new video.